Okay, welcome to another Thursday morning and another episode of Seeds of Music. I'm your host, Kyle Williams, and this is the #1 web show and podcast where aspiring independent artists and do-it-yourself musicians can learn right now how to gain wider exposure, grow a strong base of raving fans, and make a living doing what they love. Now today we have, and I'm really excited about this because this guy is a total baller at what he does, John Ojaka. I know how his name is spelled, but that is how you say his name. John Ojaka is on the show today, and John is an Interscope recording artist turned online marketing expert in the new music business, plus on and offline marketing strategies for musicians, for their social media, performing, songwriting, recording, and just this new era that we're in of independent music that's made possible by the internet. Now, John has appeared in and on Rolling Stone, CNN, the Los Angeles Times, Newsweek, Time Magazine, Entertainment Weekly, US, People, the Boston Phoenix. Let me take a breath real quick here. Entertainment Tonight, Inside Edition, Access Hollywood, and many, many more that I just don't have the breath capacity to get through them all. But more importantly, John is also the author of Music Marketing Manifesto, which reveals the secret strategy to selling and promoting music online. And the topic that we're going to tackle here is a no BS approach to selling and promoting your music online that really works from a guy who knows exactly what he's doing, and he's a musician as well. So let's go. Okay, John, thank you for coming on to the Seeds of Music web show, and it's really awesome to have you on the show today.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Oh, and guys, sorry, John is actually joining us from New Zealand, so there might be a little bit of a delay here because we're bouncing signals like everywhere across the globe here and back from New Zealand to Los Angeles. So just bear with us a little bit here for these slightly awkward pauses in between.
Yeah, well, welcome to my world. Every single audio recording I do that's an interview of any kind is me sitting there for hours cutting out those damn delays. It's incredibly irritating. So my apologies.
Oh, that's all right, man. But I have a little secret for that because I use Audacity, and if there's audio only anything, I bring it into Audacity and I use truncate silence for anybody who's thinking about doing some podcasting, and that automatically cuts out stuff below a certain decibel level. So I'm just throwing that out there.
I did not know about that. Okay, that would have saved me a few hours recently.
Yeah,
man.
I'll
look for that.
Yeah, we'll do it after the show. I'll send you the settings that I use. You can try it out, and honestly, it makes you sound like you can talk without ever having to actually breathe in air. It's incredible.
Interesting.
So guys, if you don't know, John is expert on selling and promoting music online. I mean, he has a really unique story because he's a musician. I mean, he started out as a musician, and then you turned to an online marketer. I mean, how exactly did that come about?
Sure, and I should clarify, I'm still technically a musician. I got album number 4 in the can, and still making music all the time. But yeah, the short version, and I'm not so good at short, but here goes. Way back in the day, it was 1999. I got my first record deal, and that was with Interscope. And I always qualify this because it's not like there's some big book somewhere where they actually keep track of these things. But at the very least, the trade said it was the largest new artist signing in history at the time. And at the very least, it was a very large deal. The future looked bright, but at the end of the day, didn't sell enough copies, and had my 15 minutes, but that was about it. And I was dropped, like the majority of artists. And got re-signed actually to Universal. Record didn't even come out there. They were shifting around, and they let it go. And I got it picked up again by a Warner Brothers sub. And then that was just a one-off. Record came out, and then finally I went on to an indie label. And there was some friends starting up a label, and it sounded like a good idea. At least I knew the people, and I knew they cared. But at the end of the day, they were just getting started and really didn't know that much about what they were doing. Yeah. No disrespect intended, and it didn't sell enough copies either. And it was just this long stream of frustrating experiences. Every musician listening to this knows you put your life into this stuff and you hold your breath and hope that you're going to get some sales reports that are impressive. And when time and time again it doesn't happen, you start pulling your hair out going, I really don't know why I should bother continuing to do this if nobody wants my stuff. What's the point? And so as the years started to pass, and as hefty as those advances were, those initial publishing and record
Yeah.
label advances, a decade later, I was well, it wasn't quite a decade at the point we're getting to, but I realized I was going to have to, the bank account was going to last forever, and I was going to have to get a day job if I couldn't turn something around and start generating some actual income. So, not wanting to do that, my only skill in life being music, I saw one of those flashy red headlines that many listening to this have no doubt seen before, promising that if I bought some course on internet marketing, it would teach me how to make millions of dollars with little to no effort in my sleep. And I bunkered in and started applying all the strategies in this course. Set up the campaign. At the time, it was a paid advertising based campaign or strategy rather.
Yeah.
And it was selling digital products. Set up the campaign. Woke up the next morning, and lo and behold, I had spent $10 and sold a $20 ebook and got the bug. Got the taste. Went, holy crap, this actually works. It's not all just one big scam. You can actually sell things on the internet.
Yeah.
And that was not followed by
What year was that?
millions of dollars. This is 2007, I think. So,
Okay.
or might have even been actually, might have actually been 2006 when I started playing around with this stuff. I think
Okay.
that's when it was.
So you've been at it a
It was
long
probably about
time.
2000. Yeah, probably was 2007 when I finally cracked it and started making some real money because, it wasn't by any means easy income. These courses, remember, they're put out by publishers and, they have a wide range of motives, and many of them are just trying to, of course, get you to buy courses with much less regard for how it's actually going to help you. And
Yeah.
and the big flashy red headlines will make it sound quite easy, and it's not. It's if it was, everyone would be millionaires, but it
Yeah.
is possible. And
Yeah.
and so if you're willing to do the work, and I was, I spent a good year busting my butt learning everything I could, and I'm not exaggerating when I say I probably read or watched or listened to 500 to 1,000 books and courses and things like that
In
on
a year?
on marketing. No, this is probably over the years, but
Oh, okay.
I dove in and consumed everything that I possibly could get my hands on
Yeah.
because I didn't want to get a day job,
Yeah.
and I finally cracked the code. I'd say about a year later, I was finally making real income, and once that happened, the floodgates really opened because once you sort of figure this out, it's really not that hard. And fast forward, I started just the initial business that I started has now made over $2 million.
Yeah.
That wasn't music related at all, and
Yeah.
and that's still ticking along, making money each month. And truth be told, I don't even touch that business. It just the odd email I need to jump in and answer that somebody on my team can't answer,
Yeah.
but that sort of took care of itself and got the finances back in order. And what do you know? I had a skill set. So now backing up to around 2010, looking for something new to do, something I enjoyed a bit more. That was a health niche product, and it wasn't something I uh, liked, and I respected the product I was promoting, but it wasn't my own product, and I wanted to do something I was more passionate about. And around the same time, it only once I had this new skill set, it only sort of made sense that I started
Yeah. To use it
applying
to
it to my
music.
own music. And
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and I would run a promotion, or I'd run a little campaign on my own stuff, and lo and behold, I was actually selling music for the first time in my life. It was working.
Because you need to know this
Selling
stuff to
music,
sell
selling
it.
music's you do. And selling music is a little different than selling a traditional product in that traditional products are typically problem solution based.
Hmm.
You want to lose weight, here's a vitamin or
Yeah.
a supplement or a book or
Yeah.
whatever it
Or
is. You want
exercise routine.
to
Hmm.
make money, here's a course. Yeah. And so with music it's a little different. We're not directly solving a problem. Instead we're focusing on trying to build a bond with our list and essentially tap into a greater pre-existing desire. And so the process is a little different, but fundamentally what I had learned in terms of driving traffic, creating offers, creating the mechanisms for
Hmm.
selling, and more importantly, the fundamentals of copywriting applied directly to music. And no surprise, it was working. And
Yeah.
I, as you do when you're having some success with this stuff, you start talking about it with friends, and one thing led to another. And a friend of mine, Billy Burke is his name, was going to put out an album, and he's an actor, and he had a pretty decent Twitter following, and I kind of, but he had no mailing list, and I knew what was going to
Oh,
happen. He was going to put it out over, have um, uh, greater expectations than reality was going to sort of bear out, because we have these followings, these Facebook followings, Twitter followings, even email lists, but if we
yeah.
don't know what to do with it, typically we're not going to see any kind of significant sales.
Yeah.
And I felt that was going to happen, and I was like, hey, you know what, let me handle the marketing on this. And again, long story short, that's what I did, and I set up the entire record for him. It was his debut album. This was, like I said, back in 2010. It might have actually even been 2009, if memory serves, when we
Okay.
put it out. Um, and we launched it, and my budget was effectively zero. I think we spent a few $100 on some Facebook ads.
Yeah.
But we set the all-time single-day sales record over at CD Baby, and anyone listening who's not familiar,
Impressive.
CD
I wish I
Baby's
could
what's
play the soundbite for Darth Vader saying impressive for that part right there.
maybe you can edit that in
Actually,
via
yeah, I'm gonna
Audacity.
try and do that.
But yeah, so we set the all-time single-day sales record at CD Baby, the world's largest distributor of independent music, and we actually even got him on the Billboard charts. It wasn't like number one or anything. He was like 50 on the Heat Seekers chart. But
Okay.
for an independent musician to come out of nowhere and hit the Billboard charts, I mean, heck, I was impressed, and a bit jealous, I might add. And with that sort of success under my belt with Billy, I just decided to take it all, put it into a course, and share it with others, and
Yeah.
that's what I did. It's Music Marketing Manifesto. It's now in its third incarnation, Music Marketing Manifesto 3.0.
Hmm.
Um, and I've that was in January of 2010, when that first was released, and over the last few years, it's really grown into a pretty big business with 20 something thousand subscribers and growing, and
Wow.
I've got several different products, everything from educational products to software, and working on new things for the future as well. And yeah, that's my world these days, is working with independent musicians, trying to teach them fundamentally direct response marketing,
Okay.
or as is more popular in artistic circles, direct to fan marketing.
Okay.
And we'll get into the strategies, I'm sure, a bit
Yeah.
more, but it really works. And I think really direct response, or aka direct to fan marketing, is really the only approach that any independent musician should be taking if they're hoping to see any kind of results.
Yeah. Yeah. So what do you believe that the kind of the direct to fan model, which follows the do it yourself musician model in some fashions, is that better than the whole let's go get a major record label deal?
Certainly, in my opinion, I mean, hey, if a giant record label wants to come around and give you hundreds of thousands of dollars, I'm not telling you not to take it. But one, those deals obviously are few and far between. Artist development is pretty much dead. Labels are becoming banks. They're looking for artists that can go out there and make something happen on their own,
Yeah.
so they can just effectively put their muscle behind some momentum that you already created. And I think the real problem that independent musicians are having is that they are effectively just trying to copy what the major labels are doing. And what the major labels are doing is they're using branding strategies. They're going out and spending hundreds of thousands, often
Yeah.
millions of dollars, to impact an entire population of people with repetition.
Yeah.
You
Just
know,
basically
like
top of mind.
uh, exactly. You hear it on the radio, you see a poster somewhere, you read a review in Rolling Stone, and you see an ad online, or you see a banner ad on
Yeah.
iTunes. They'll just bombard you with impressions to the point that it ultimately affects purchasing decisions. We see that with
Yeah.
products out there in the world. I often use Tide laundry detergent as an example. We don't know most of us don't know anything about laundry detergent. They just bombard us with the image of
Yeah.
that familiar orange bottle. And when
Yeah.
we're in the shop, as long as the price is relatively the same and the features are relatively the same as other products we're looking at, we're going to pick it up because it's got authority in the marketplace.
Yeah.
And that's while the purchase pulses are different, that is effectively what the major labels are doing. That's not going to work when you have a few $100 or a few $1,000s to spend.
Yeah.
The average independent artist has very little to spend on marketing. I mean, most don't even
But
really
they should
consider it, to be
spend.
honest.
They should spend, don't you think?
I think they should, but I think they should spend it in the right way, and I don't
Yeah.
think they should spend it on radio. I don't even necessarily think they should spend it on touring. A smart tour can be a great thing, but the way most people are approaching it is not usually smart. We all want the romantic Jack
What's the
Kerouac
typical
experience.
not smart way?
Well, to book a far-reaching tour that crosses, some vast distance with
Oh.
expensive gas and hotel bills
Yeah.
and vehicle rentals, to hit a bunch of towns that you haven't done any groundwork in and
Yeah.
are probably not going to come back to.
Yeah.
That's the dumb way to do it.
Yeah.
The smart way to do it, and I'm kind of jumping ahead of myself here, but is to build leads, build a fan base in a series of towns close to home with low transportation, low gas, low hotel bills. Ideally
Yeah.
places that from at the end of the show. So if you're in Los Angeles, that was San Diego, Orange County, maybe as far-reaching as San Francisco and Vegas,
Yeah.
but there's even closer, maybe Ventura, uh, or Santa Barbara. Independent markets in their own right, but places that are far enough apart that you can build individual fan bases, drive traffic to getting ahead of myself here, but so I'll say it very quickly and then we can back up and explain. But build a fan base, geo-targeted advertising, to build leads, to build an email list in each one of these towns, and then promote your shows via the email list, so that you really are.
Yeah.
And then hit these competitively, maybe a residency or something like that, where you're coming back and back and back, and you're using your advertising to fuel your list, and you're using your list to drive people to the shows, and you are commanding enough people that you can up your advances, sell merch, and that's a smart tour. But again, that's already starting to touch on a strategy that we haven't really explained.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's move on to a little bit about selling, because I know you've got a limited amount of time, and I got a lot of things I want to hit up real quick with you.
Sure.
So what do you think is the biggest conception about about selling online when it comes to music and musicians, specifically selling online?
The biggest conception, the biggest
The biggest. I'm sorry. What's
perception that
the biggest misconception that musicians have about selling online?
I don't know if I've thought about that before. What is the biggest misconception? Well, I mean, I think people come to the table with a lot of different ideas. Some come to the table thinking that it doesn't work because their previous experience has been that they sell 3 CDs a year, from their website. I did a survey a few years back, and at the time, I think about 400 something musicians completed it. And the numbers were like 51% of the musicians surveyed were selling less than 50 copies a year. Some pretty big percentage, like 15%, I want to say, were selling less than 5 CDs a year,
Yeah.
if memory serves. So, a lot of people come to the table thinking that people just don't buy music at all, whether it's online or otherwise, that everyone is just pirating things and
Yeah.
and
It's easy to be negative.
getting their music via illegal. It definitely is, and it's understandable. That they're beaten down out there. We spend our lives dreaming of a certain experience. We put a decade or more into writing that first album, we spend usually tens of thousands of dollars on equipment, and then tens of thousands of dollars on manufacturing, the recording and the manufacturing, only to
Yeah.
put it out and then have 30 sales come in from our closest friends. Week 2 rolls around, we get one. Week 3 rolls around, and we get nothing. And the and so goes the rest of our career.
Yeah.
And that's the average experience, and it's brutal. And so it's understandable. There's a lot of people that are feeling pretty beaten down, and it's easy to hold on to this idea that the industry is dead and people aren't buying music anymore. But it really isn't the case. People are just buying music and consuming music differently.
Hmm.
So when you take those traditional approaches, when you just get out there and do the stuff that musicians are typically doing, maybe getting a review or two, maybe doing a handful of shows, you're not really doing much to inspire people to actually go and take action to buy something. Buying is a process. Selling is a very established process that every other market on the planet focuses a lot of energy on. That process of how do I close a sale? How do I take
Yeah.
a person from not being interested to making them interested? And how do I take them once they are interested and motivate them to pull out their credit card and make a purchase? That's a science. And if you're not taking any action that is going to lead to that end result, then it's not going to happen. So I think that there's a big misconception there, that you just get out there and play shows, and a friend is going to tell a friend who's going to tell a friend who's going to tell a friend,
Oh,
and
yeah.
suddenly you sold 10,000 CDs,
So
and it doesn't work that way.
relying too much on this idea that things fall into your lap, that just word of mouth from doing
Sure.
very little will pan out into something very big for you. I mean, I've even had musicians contact me who they kind of indicate that there's just kind of waiting for someone to come along that will help make everything better, that will help get their music out there to more people. And I know that for you, you have this belief that all the exposure in the world isn't gonna do you anything. So can you tell us a little bit about what that exactly means?
Sure. Oh, sorry, I lost you there for a split second of that. I got the classic Skype where you cut out, and then all of a sudden the entire sentence rushes back at me in a compact microsecond. But you said you were asking me to clarify the line. All of the exposure in the world is not going to help your music career.
Yes.
Right. Well, I mean, I'm sure 90% of the people listening to this have had a similar experience where you go and I'm not going to pick on any one company, but you go and you set up your music page with all the different services that are out there. You maybe hook up with the different sort of online radio services that are available to you. You get a digital distributor. And you spend money maybe on press. A lot of musicians have had that experience, and publicists are not cheap. We're talking $500 a month for the super cheap indie publicist, but more commonly $1 to $3 a month for a publicist to run publicity. People go and spend money on radio, and that's few and far between. But anyone who's been doing this for a number of years or more probably has a story where they blew 20 grand on radio. I know I do. And they play shows. But again, the problem there is all of that stuff is exposure based. Shows can help with sales, but all of that other stuff. Somebody hears you on the radio, they go, cool, great song, what's next? And then they forget about it, and then they move on. Now, if they hear you on the radio 3 times a day for 3 months, or even for 3 weeks, sure, okay, maybe some of those people might be provoked to take action next time they're on iTunes and seek you out if they stuck around and listened to the DJ say the name of the band. But most of us don't have the budgets to pull off those kinds of spins,
Yeah.
and nothing really happens. Somebody goes,
Yeah.
"Oh, that was cool," and that's it. Somebody sees a YouTube video and goes, "Oh, that was cool," and that's it. And this is at best, of course. Publicity. I mean, Well, I'll give you an example. I was working on a campaign with someone who did an interview on ABC, like on actual on television, and they mentioned the website, and I thought, oh man, we're going to get slammed with all
Oh,
kinds of traffic when that happens. And I don't. It was a little difficult to track because traffic comes from multiple places, but I didn't have anything else running at the moment. And as best I could tell, we maybe got 3 subscribers from that show. Um, Whereas one tweet on Twitter to try to move people over could literally bring in hundreds of subscribers. One crappy blog post with a link could bring in infinitely more than that. Because
yeah.
when people are sitting there in front of their televisions or reading Rolling Stone or watching or listening to the radio, rather, they're not. It's going to take a lot to get them up off the couch or out of the car and onto their computer to then go and check, seek you out and buy. Now,
Yeah.
some are going to, but it's a small number of people. We need to, actually, I'll make an analogy. But on the other end of the spectrum, a lot of musicians listening probably have that experience where, and I hear this a lot, the only thing that works is live shows. Well, the reason live shows work is because the people that are selling stuff are usually working that merch table. They're standing there. They're talking to people.
Yeah.
They're having conversations. They're building reciprocity. They're building a bond, and they're effectively closing the sale, whether they realize it or not. Selling doesn't mean you have to be some cheesy car salesman, but it does mean that you need to walk
Yeah.
people from A to B
Yeah.
and ultimately make that sale.
And I want to kind of tackle
And
that.
what we're in simplest terms, what I'm teaching people. Yeah, well, I'll just say, and then I'll step back. But what in simplest terms, what I'm doing with this online marketing and what direct response marketing is taking that process of a successful encounter at the merch table and turning it into a scalable digital relationship, something that takes place largely via email. Instead of driving people into a club, we're driving them onto our email list with some free music and effectively a promise that our music will deliver on some pre-existing passion or interest. But we're driving them instead of a club onto our list, and then
Yeah.
we're having an actual dialogue with them. But instead of doing it one on one like you do at a merch table, we are doing it via email, which allows us infinite scalability. You could have 100,000 people sign up for your list on the same day and shake 100,000 hands effectively at the same time, and you just can't do that with live shows.
Yeah.
So, but then we have that conversation. We send additional material, get them more familiar with us, send blog posts, encourage them to comment and reply to our emails, and again, just build an authentic relationship with our fans. And then, peppering that conversation with the fact that we have a CD that is available, but occasionally going in with some kind of an incentivized offer to get them off the fence and take action. That could be a discount, it could be a bundle, whatever it is to motivate people to actually buy our stuff, because people want to sit on that fence. They don't want to part with their money, and you really have to force them to say yes or no throughout the process. And plenty of people are going to say no, but if you force that decision, then you're going to have many more people saying, yeah, sure, I'd like to buy your album than you are if you don't ever push it at all.
Yeah. So it's like requiring musicians to be a little bit more forward.
Sure. Yeah. Well, definitely. You literally have to quote ask for the sale unquote. You hear that a lot in marketing circles. You need to ask for the sale, and the same is true of music.
So, in regards to all, I mean, this is a lot of like a ton of great information, and just in terms of being able to sell more with your music, whether you're at merch table or through your online resources. But what and some music, there's a ton of musicians out there like, hey man, I'm just a musician, I'm not a salesman. I mean, what would you have to say to them?
Well, the truth is if your reality is that you are just a musician, you're an artist, not a business person, and music shouldn't be about the business, then stay away from my stuff, because I don't believe that. I don't subscribe to that. And the people that are stuck in that attitude are not going to respond to any kind of marketing or business training, and they're probably not going to succeed either unless they luck out and find someone who can really shepherd their careers. Certainly there are the odd exceptions out there, and there are less and less of them, but there are the odd exceptions that just have some special quality to their music, and they're able to pull people into their world and ultimately head on to success. You know, there is that artist that's just remarkable and changes the world with their music. Typically, there's, you know, one of the first rounds of people they pull in are industry people that see that talent and capitalize on it. But what I'm trying to do, you know, I never had that experience. Everything I've ever achieved in my life, I fought tooth and nail for. You know, I had to really
Yeah.
make it happen. So what I'm interested in is teaching people who, you know, the rest of us, the 99.99999% of us that are going to actually have to work for this stuff. I'm trying to put strategies in their hand that will give individuals more control over the circumstances of their career, and I think that's really important. And you know, if you look over the iconic rock and roll figures, or just, you know, musical icons over
Yeah.
the ages, and the ones that have lasted, from what insight I have into their worlds, you know, it's not by accident. They're very savvy people that are not ignorant of the fact that this is a business. Whether it's David Bowie or Madonna or Gene Simmons or Bon Jovi, or, you know, the list goes on. The ones that last are very smart and again, very business savvy people, and they are not sticking their heads in the ground saying, you know, hey, I'm just an artist. There's a separation, I think, between the business hat that we need to wear and the
Yeah.
artist hat that we need to wear. But you certainly can sit around and hope that you can find a manager to do all this work for you. But you know, I've been through the ringer with this stuff, and I've been there and done that in just about every sort of pocket of this music industry, from setting up porta potties for Grateful Dead concerts, to promoting bands, to producing bands, to obviously being a recording artist, to
Yeah.
now marketing bands. And I don't know, all I ever wanted was the ability to affect change in my life. And so if people want to sit around and say that, hey, they're just an artist, then great, but you're putting a lot of faith in the tides of life, and I don't want to do that. I want to affect change. I want to take control. So that's my attitude.
Yeah, that's a great attitude, and one that I agree very much with. Just because, for me, my personally, I feel like it's better to put power in your hands and than in someone else's hands.
Absolutely.
So, you have a awesome program, okay, called music marketing manifesto. Can you tell us like a little bit about it, and who the ideal person would be who would benefit from it?
And so I again lost like a microsecond of that.
Uh,
So if I miss something,
yeah,
then
Skype.
catch me after the fact. But no, I think I got it. But Music Marketing Manifesto, what is it? Music Marketing Manifesto, again, it's a course. It's an online course. It's something that's housed in it's largely video based. It's housed in an interactive online members area. When you sign up, you create a username and password, and there's something like 40 something videos in the members area
Oh,
that
awesome.
effectively just walk you through the process of setting up one of these purchase funnels, you know, that we were talking about. Um, where I also include well, not all of the tools you need, but most of the tools you'll need. I include a website template that's powered by WordPress. You still need hosting. Many musicians are already going to have web hosting, and you'll need a
Yeah,
autoresponder. I make recommendations in the course. Um, this is all cheap stuff, you know, works out to something like $30 a month
yeah,
for those services, and there's really no way around it. Those are the bones of
yeah,
setting up this kind of a system. But then I just let you watch over my shoulder as I show you how to do everything. I realize musicians, the majority of them, are not very tech savvy when it comes to the internet and computers.
yeah,
So I just set up a campaign from start to finish and walk you through it, and then, you know, talk about the theory behind why we're doing what we're doing. I include email templates that I've used in campaigns before, so that,
yeah,
you know, you can. I don't recommend people copy and paste, but you can take the structure of those emails and apply them to your own emails, and just really spell out what that looks like, how to create it, and just walk you through the process from beginning to end, all the way up to driving traffic, and you know, what to do when things aren't working, and, you know, just the entire thing. So it'd be like, the idea is like, having me come over to your house, or rather, the idea is it's meant to simulate sort of hiring me as a consultant, which would be, I think, far too expensive. I don't think people should put their money in something like that. I think they should keep that profit and do it themselves. And
Yeah.
so the idea is, rather than having someone like me go off, charge you thousands of dollars to just build something, I did it once, recorded the entire process using screen capture software, and let you watch over my shoulder as I did it, so that you can literally just go, okay, pause the video, now I'm going to go do that, and hit play again. And then, of course, there's Q&A below each lesson, so if you have any questions at all, you just post a question, and then either myself or someone from my team comes through and answers it. Trying to think what else I might be leaving out. Yeah, email templates, website template, and complete tutorials on how to do it. And that's what Music Marketing Manifesto is. Who would be interested? We're really any musician who's ever put out a record and had less sales than they would have liked. Any musician who's ever been frustrated by their inability to either attract a team, such as managers and promoters and labels, these kinds of things, or who has had that experience and been frustrated or let down by those people, and they never seem to work, or they rarely seem to work as hard as we do, because obviously a manager or a label has many other artists. Their businesses don't stop if you don't sell any copies, but of course ours do. So any musician who is looking to take power into their own hands and be able to drive sales, it's a powerful thing, and I see it all the time in various testimonials and
Yeah, you have a
comments
ton
in
of
the members area.
testimonials on your site.
Yeah, and truth be told, like, that's just a tiny sampling. Those are just the ones that I remember to say, hey, can I post that on the site? But when somebody sends in an email saying, wow, I just had my first 5 subscribers hit the end of my email series, and I just sold 2 CDs, it may just be 2 CDs that they're reporting about, but that's
2 more CDs than they had before.
Well, when you, like I said, going back to my experience when I woke up that morning after setting up my first online campaign, and I sold a ebook for $20 and spent 10 to do it, that was huge. It changed my life that moment. It was, oh my God, I can actually generate income. And when you learn that, wow, I can actually motivate people to buy my music without radio, without MTV, without I guess MTV is not even relevant anymore. Data reference there, but without without any of these, without record labels, without attorneys, without any of these things that are so hard to attract as independent artists, it's huge. And certainly I'm getting testimonials much bigger than I've sold 2 CDs, but I still think even those simple, I've sold a couple of CDs. Wow, those kind of emails, they're huge, and they're paradigm shifting for a lot of independent musicians.
Yeah. And what do you think is like the besides all the tactics and the techniques, what do you feel is like the key mentality that independent artists need to cultivate in order to have success with Music Marketing Manifesto?
Well, there's a couple of things. I mean, I do see that some people come to the table. You get with any kind of business strategy. This isn't a magic bullet. It's not a guaranteed system that's going to make you rich. It's nothing like that. It's
with bold red.
These are
red
sound.
Highlighter.
Well, I do use the bold red letters, but because hey, they work. But I'm certainly guilty of that. But where was I going? Sorry, my other line is ringing, and it just took me off point. But sorry,
The key mentalities.
What was your question?
Sorry, that's all right.
You're right. The key.
Yeah.
I see my wife calling in, and suddenly I'm flustered. What do I need to? What do I need to go in and handle? But no, the key mentalities. There's a couple of them. I mean, I see people coming to the table with. Oh yeah, I was going to say that this isn't a magic bullet. It's not a trick. It's not a scam. It's just sound marketing practices that work, have worked for me, have worked for others. But like anything, Colonel Sanders could teach 100 people how to start chicken restaurants, and they're not all going to succeed, because people are going to bring many different differences to the table, and everybody's
Yeah.
different, and their skill sets are different, and their
Yeah.
knack for things is different. And some people have an intuitive ability to sort of put their self in the shoes of others. When they are landing on a web page, you get an intuitive sense of what they're thinking and what they're seeing, and then you can change and adapt your marketing to speak to those people.
Yeah.
And that's an important thing. People who have that intuitive ability tend to do better than others. Not to say that people who don't come to the table with that can't do it, because testing is somewhat robotic, and even if you don't necessarily have an intuition for it, you can
Yeah.
still um, follow the steps and test different elements until you ultimately get it right. And
Yeah.
but I was going to say, you have 10% of the people or 20% of the people that just come out guns blazing, have immediate success. You get, maybe 30% of the people that are going to really struggle with this stuff because they're not
Yeah.
going to follow directions, they're not going to apply it correctly. Then
Yeah.
you get another 50% that it doesn't come naturally for, but they work hard at it and they get it,
Yeah.
and they're able to see sales.
Yeah.
But so understanding that the process that your potential fans are going through, and being able to change your marketing, and understanding concepts like ROI, return on investment, and just having that entrepreneur's brain, that's certainly going to put you ahead of the pack if you have that entrepreneur's mindset. That said, the other thing that I think is really important is to just understand what your brand actually is. A lot of people, they're good musicians, they care about this stuff, they care about their careers, they care about the art, but they're not really they don't really know what their voice is outside of music. And fans get behind music usually, especially with independent artists, for reasons a lot bigger than just the song. We want to be
Yeah.
part of a tribe. We want to follow individuals because
Yeah.
we like something that they're about.
Yeah.
Sometimes it could be something as simple as that they're attractive to us.
Yeah.
Other times it's that they're edgy and interesting. Other times it's that they're funny.
Yeah.
Other times it's that they're kind. Whatever that thing is. And again, these the, that's gonna what that is going to vary greatly depending on your genre and your demographic. If you're playing country music, your audience is probably going to have traditional values and they're going to respond. If you're a former Marine who's doing charity work and
Yeah.
is religious, those
Hmm.
kinds of values are going to really connect with people. If you're a punk rock artist, they're going to appeal to the fact that you're out there in the world getting arrested and doing crazy shit that they can
Yeah.
appreciate vicariously through you.
And if you're
Um,
black metal,
so,
then
so
it's all about theatrics
yeah,
and
yeah.
I
So
actually
what
saw.
that core value is?
Yeah, I
Go
actually
on.
saw back in a long time ago. I saw I don't know how to pronounce the name, but Dimmu Borgir. It's like some Icelandic black metal band. It was probably like the most entertaining show I've ever seen. I would love to see
Uh,
them again.
can imagine. I don't know if you've caught it on my site, but I did an interview with a vegan black metal chef, which is pretty special. He's a
Wow,
serious black metal artist who is uh, got a project as a vegan chef. He's a
that talk
vegan and a
about
black
niching
metal
down.
artist, and he's well aware of the humor of it all, but he's it's pretty awesome. He does black metal songs as he teaches you how to cook things like asparagus tempura rolls and whatnot.
Because nothing's
In
more dark and
full
demonic
black
than.
metal. No, no, no. I think he stirred it up with a spoon with a skull on the end of it in the
Nice.
video that I saw. But great stuff. But yeah, so being able to, a lot of people will set all this up and they'll send out emails to their list that just fall flat because they're not really able to say anything. You need to create that brand that is bigger than just the songs that people can get behind.
Yeah.
So And I think that's important of mainstream artists as well. And I think that's one of the things that causes artists to boom or become one-hit
Yeah.
wonders when they have a brand that is larger than just the songs.
Yeah.
Then people get behind that and they have long careers. When they don't have a brand but they have a great song, then it comes out, does well at radio, nobody buys it, and then everybody forgets about them. And that doesn't mean that you have to be, the vegan black metal chef, and it doesn't mean that you need to be a Marine doing
Yeah.
charity work. It just means that you need to have captured a a spirit that others recognize in themselves,
Yeah.
and you need to come to represent that, so that when they buy your music, when they listen to their music, they're aligning themselves with some, again, deeper interest or passion that has already existed in their hearts and souls.
Yep. Yeah, you got to find your unique voice to really connect with your unique fan base. But there's two last questions I want to hit up real quick because I know your wife was calling you on the phone and I don't want to get you in trouble. But just real
No,
quick,
no worries, no worries.
just real quick, email marketing, is this really useful for artists to do? I think so. I just want to get your take.
100%. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Most listening to this, well, some listening to this remember MySpace and how we all had tens of thousands of friends, and it added up to absolutely nothing at the end of the day. Um, and I was one of many who sat there for hours with those friend adders, adding and adding and adding and adding, but it still didn't drive any sales. In fact, that was what first got me curious about online marketing. Was I was having dismal results with music, but I was seeing all these other people in the forum selling traditional products and doing well with it. And it first kind of piqued my curiosity,
Yeah.
which led to me jumping on one of those product or those courses. But um, getting back to your question, uh, even Facebook. We have, I have with, for example, the music marketing manifesto page at the moment, like something like, I don't know, somewhere over 10,000
You have a lot.
likes, but it's not, but I put something out there and I get if I just do a regular post without paying for any kind of advertising or boost, I'll get like 200 people seeing it. It's just
Yeah.
it's not, and sometimes it's a little more than that, but um, that 10,000 people doesn't mean anything. Conversely, I have, well, if I was to just mail 10,000 of my email subscribers, I would get thousands of not only
Yeah.
opens. I'd probably get, I could get, oh, I don't know, probably 40% opens on
Yeah.
that email, and I'd probably get half of those people clicking. So I'd get thousands of clicks on an offer. And the other thing that's nice about email is it sits around in that person's inbox until they pay attention to it,
Yeah.
as opposed to Facebook or Twitter, where you're on their wall for a few seconds and then you're gone,
Yeah.
for the most part anyway. EdgeRank's only getting harder. Facebook is forcing people into their advertising network pretty much. They sort
Yeah.
of gave us a few years to go, and I like Facebook, so I'm really not trying to bash them, but they gave us a few
Yeah.
years to
It's just hard. It's
invest all
hard
this
for.
time and energy into our, yeah, they gave us a few years to invest all this time and energy into our pages, and then suddenly change their algorithm so that we have to pay if we want exposure to those people, that those followers that we've generated over the years. And so yeah, it's a frustrating scene, and that happened. Obviously, what happened with MySpace was different, but the bottom keeps dropping out of everything we're doing if we don't own the platform. If
Yeah.
we're relying on
Precisely.
somebody else, and email gives us, again, control. When you own an email address, you own the ability to reach out to someone forever. And
Yeah.
some people are gonna just stop opening your emails,
Or give
or
you a bum email address.
unsubscribe, or exactly. Some of that's going to happen. There are things you can do to protect against that,
Hmm.
um, but yeah, nevertheless, most people are signing up because they're genuinely interested, and if you can hold their attention with your broader brand, you're gonna be able to promote multiple things to them over and over and over again with no advertising dollars spent, and that's really huge. If you
Yeah.
build that list over a few years and you get 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 subscribers, not only are you getting to generate profit right there on the front end of this funnel, but
Yeah.
you can go and promote future albums, concerts,
Yeah.
merch that you might put
Yeah.
together, membership
Yeah.
sites, house concerts. The list goes on, and generate multiple profit points.
Yeah.
And like I say, more than anything, you have an asset. And one of the biggest things that I kick myself over after all these years in this industry is just that time that was spent on the major labels, and the literally millions of dollars
Oh
that was
yeah.
spent on my
Yeah.
career, only to not have a mailing list at the end of it. I was a dinosaur before I learned all this stuff, and I would take down email addresses at shows, and
On the
um,
clipboard.
do the old exactly. And at the end of the day, I think I had something like 500 because I never worked it, and then went and finally set up with a proper autoresponder, sent out a link to everybody to sign up, and I had 60 people. So
Yeah.
millions of dollars spent on my career. Later, I had 60 fans to show for it. And if I had just taken a fraction of that money and spent it on building up my list, I would have had hundreds of thousands of followers and a guaranteed career
Yeah.
for many, many years to. Because even if that open rate goes down, you're still going to have that core audience that sticks with you, that keeps on opening, that keeps on listening. And so, yeah, when you have an email list, you have a real asset, and it's yours for theoretically forever.
Yep.
So, absolutely the way to go, in my opinion.
Yep. And it's all about the assets when it comes to building like sustainable and scalable businesses, especially if you're a musician.
De-
So,
Definitely.
John, man, this has been an excellent interview. Usually we keep them in half an hour, but I just couldn't, man. I was just like, man, this is so much like great information. I've really enjoyed talking to you because I'm coming from where I'm coming from. I'm also a musician turned entrepreneur and online marketer. It's really great to hear what you have to say and to learn from you as well. Not only for me personally, but for everyone tuning into the show. So, with that being said, I'm going to field you this last fun question. What is your favorite album, and what would your life be like if it never existed?
Sorry, I lost a split second of that. What's my favorite
Oh.
album? What would my life be like?
What
My
would your
life be
life be
like?
like if it never existed?
Well, can I say two albums? Can I have pick
Yeah,
two?
sure, sure. I know it's a hard question, so we
Okay.
can have some leeway there.
Yeah, well, there's just two definitely that come to mind without, but they both had an equal place in my life. And one was Appetite for Destruction. Appetite for Destruction came out when I was in high school, and 6 months later I was in a band. I got so into it that I can't just be a fan of this. I have to make music,
Yeah,
and it led to me embracing this spirit of rock and roll, and definitely define my path, and much of the texture of my life, and everything that followed, and my move to Hollywood, and and so many things in terms of the texture of my life, and the sheer fact that I decided I wanted to make music for a living was defined by that album, or
hmm
was at least ignited by that album. And I still think it's a kick-ass freaking record. Um, but one of the last great rock and roll records, in my opinion. It's really, really fantastic record. And then on the other end of the spectrum, uh, Highway 61 Revisited by Bob Dylan. That was the album that. Well, I've spent most of my career. I am a solo artist, but I spent a lot of that time, especially in the earlier years, coming up before getting a record deal, and things, and even after being a solo artist. And so I've kind of got these dual textures, this sort of rock and roll spirit, but what actually comes natural to
yeah,
me is this lyrics driven, more acoustic based, or
yeah,
Americana based rather, music that really came from Bob Dylan, and the lyrics of Dylan really were the backdrop for most of my
yeah,
young adult life, and defined probably more my artistic direction than anything else. So without either of those albums, without Appetite for Destruction, I would not have jumped on a plane as soon as I grew up in Hawaii. So as soon as I graduated high school, I was on a plane to go pursue rock and roll. I moved to Seattle initially, then later to LA, and none of that probably would have happened. I probably would have gone to college and, I don't know, had a respectable life.
Oh, yeah. The
But
deferred
the
life.
one I ended up having was a lot more fun.
Yeah.
But if were it not for um, Bob Dylan, I don't think I ever would have written the lyrics that I ended up writing, which I'm at least personally quite proud of.
Okay. That's those are two like very like I think very core like examples of their respective genres for like rock and then just incredible songwriting. John, thanks again. Thanks for coming on and sharing all this information and guys, for those who are listening, I'm going to post the links up, all the links below to Music Marketing Manifesto. Highly encourage you to go check it out if you are feeling frustrated about your current situation with where your career is headed. John is definitely the man to hook up with. So, John, thanks again.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
Okay. And that wraps up this week's episode of Seeds of Music. We had on the show John Ojaka from musicmarketingmanifesto.com. Make sure to check out the links I've posted up below. Check out Music Marketing Manifesto. If you are ready to start selling and promoting your music online in the correct way, then highly recommend that you check out what he has to offer. Next, if you haven't signed up for the Seeds of Music email newsletter, it's the best way to stay up to date with all the latest interviews and special newsletter content. We also have a podcast over at iTunes that you can head over to and subscribe to. Merely all you have to do is go into podcast section and search for Seeds of Music Rise Above the Noise. It should pop up, hit subscribe, and also leave a rating and review of the show. That will really help it rank higher in iTunes and help us get more exposure for the show. And with that exposure, I can get bigger and better interviews for you. Next, hit the share button, hit the like button, and share this with everyone that you know. If you felt like you really enjoyed this interview and got something useful out of it, why not share it with someone else that you think might get some use out of it too? And last, comment on the video. At the bottom of this page, we got a comment box. Definitely want to use that. Tell me what was your greatest revelation from this interview and how you apply what you've learned to what you are doing. Also, let me know who you would like to see interviewed next. If that person is you, just send me an email to kyle.seedsmusic@gmail.com and I'll get right back to you. And remember, we are the future of music.